is the first, but the fact families I'm doing now are with multiplication and division. Okay, but they still work, and I can do an addition and subtraction fact family review too, but they still work the same in the sense that when you have a fact family, you're going to need to, there's three numbers in this fact family. The three numbers are 5, 3, and 15. And that means you have to come up with three equations where the answers are 5, 3, and 15. So we need to have a 3 here, and we need to have a 5 there. You have to make three true equations. And that's what I think people were mixing up, is there's no option there. That's the requirement. A fact family is the three different equations that you use to get each one of the numbers in the family on the other side of the equals. That's what a fact family is. Okay, so I'm just going to talk through this for a minute. So in other words, when I do the reading here, and then I'll take questions. Like the reading up above, it says, well, and it also is really helpful, you know, as you have seen sometimes I rush and then I make reading mistakes. You want to write 2 division sentences. Right away it's telling you, this fact family has a multiplication sentence, I need you to come up with 2 division sentences for the fact family below. So that means I've got to use division sign twice. I'm not going to write another multiplication. I could do another multiplication one, but it's super easy. You know, it would just be like this. It's kind of like silly. It's good for like elementary school, but I mean, it's not interesting. Yeah. That's why I didn't ask you for that one. So we're just going to get rid of this one. It's just switching around order. So I'm really asking you for 2 division sentences. So right now, your choices are, you have to, on the left-hand side, since 3's taken up, you've got to figure out how to use the 15 and the 5 in this equation. So is it going to be 5 divided by 15 is 3? Or is it going to be 15 divided by 5 is 3? Yeah, so that's it. Okay? So now I've got 2 out of the 3. So Julian, on the next one, what 2 numbers am I going to be working with? The 3 and the 15, right? So you just ask yourself, is it going to be 15 divided by 3 is 5? Yes. Or is it going to be 3 divided by 15? No. So that's your simple fact family. That's how you do a fact family. Now you guys know on the quiz and the test, the fact families with negatives were harder, right? So when we scroll down here, this is a harder example of a fact family, but the principle like remains the same in the sense that let me grab these little, one of these and one of these, so I can put the screen up. In that on the right side of the equals, I need to have each number appear once. That's what makes it a fact family. So I need to have a -3, and I need to have a +6. I've got to have each of those. Okay. That's the requirement of a fact family. Yeah, Liam.
What do you do for like when I ask for the addition?
I'll do an addition one in a minute. Okay. I think it would be like confusing if I start doing that in the middle of this. So give me a minute. Okay, so I now know that, like for example here, if this one, if I do the reading carefully now, and now I'm writing 2 division sentences still, but there could be a time where you're asked to do like a multiplication and a division sentence, okay? And so we'll talk about that in a minute. And I might have had another example made for you, but we can make one up, okay? So we're going to still kind of just practice this. So why don't you guys do this one on your own? I'll pause this for a minute. You guys have it? No?
Yes.
Okay, so Everett, what would you do?
So I did 3 divided by 18 equals -3.
So
3 divided by 18 equals 6.
It's on freeze.
it's on freeze. Aaron, do you agree or disagree with that? Okay, why? Yeah, you can't use 3 if it's over here. You have to, so what does he have to do? Like, what are my numbers that I'm going to put over here with my division? I've got to use the other two numbers somehow.
That's what I did, I was answering the other one.
You were answering the bottom one? I just misheard you.
Okay.
Okay, so I apologize for that. So negative 18 divided by 6 would give us the negative 3. And so here's the thing. If you understand fact families, you have to use those three numbers. So we also learned that when you divide a negative by a positive, you're going to get a negative. Do you see that?
Yep.
Because fact families work for positives and negatives too. So it adheres to those rules of multiplication, like a negative times a negative is positive, and a negative times a positive is negative. So whatever works for multiplication has to work for division because of fact families. So how about the last one, Zane? Did you hear what Everett said? What would you have for your fact family?
I got negative 18 divided by 3.
Negative 18 divided by 3? Negative 3. And, you know, when you're doing this with your own pencil and paper, you have to be really careful about those negative signs because you can't pull them around on the smartboard. So we can practice that too. So that's that fact family. They get a little bit harder. You ready for a harder one?
Yeah.
Okay, do this one. Like, what are the directions this time telling us?
Write one multiplication sentence and one division.
Yeah, so now the directions are different. We need a multiplication and we need a division. So if it were me, I would right away, you know, put the signs in. And I don't have a multiplication one right there, so I'll just put a times there. Right away, I would just do that. Because then I know I'm not going to mess it up. But what I don't know is what goes on the right-hand side. But I could still kind of like try something. So let's say you're going to try to get one of the numbers. What would you do, Brady? Which one?
I'll do the multiplication one.
Yeah, I think for people, multiplication's easier. Okay.
I did negative 4.5 times negative 2 equals 9.
Okay. So, and order doesn't matter on that one. So some of you guys might have had the reverse, right? You might have had this. And that's okay. So those both work. Okay. And so then that tells us that we would have to, what would we have to have over here, Clara?
Over there, on the division one,
Mm-hmm.
it's 9 divided by 4.5.
Yeah, because we have to have the negative 2 here. Because we have to have all three numbers on the right. So there is one correct set of fact families. Okay, so let's just talk about other options. Yeah, Eric.
Well, the other division problem was up there, but like you said, for the multiplication.
Yeah, you could switch the order on multiplication. Who said I did it differently? What'd you do, AJ?
I did not, well, I did like a 4.5, or negative 4.5, well, 9 times negative 4.5 instead.
But 9 times negative 4.5 is a big number. And it has to be either, you have to have your answer of negative 2, positive 9, or negative 4.5. Those are your only choices.
Yeah, that's what I did for the other one.
Okay, so hold on, just a thought. So this is it, right? Other than what Aaron's saying, there isn't like another one. Does that make sense? Should I keep doing it? So can we just do like, go to Liam's question, because a lot of people still have this? These are different fact families, but they still behave the same, right? Fact families still behave the same. So I still need to read the directions, to think of 3 equations. But now when I read the directions, I do one addition sentence and one subtraction sentence. And so maybe, I don't know which one I'm going to start with, but I do know that I have to use the numbers over here. You guys want to try that? Okay. Give me one of your fact families for this first one. Settle in, you guys. Oh, well, let's get to it. Yep, so how are you going to use 2 numbers to get either the 10 or the negative 15.
25
Okay.
plus negative 15.
Okay, so that's going to be your addition sentence. 25 plus negative 15 equals 10.
No.
Is that what you want?
Oh.
Yeah? Okay. Liam, how about the next one?
Um,
Now we need a subtraction sentence, right?
yeah. So I did 10 minus 25 equals negative 15.
10 minus 25 equals negative 15. So I know I called on Liam a lot. I just was calling on Liam because he asked about the question. So let's hear, like, from somebody else that would like to try one of these. So Everett, and then Julian, Evan, and then Julian.
So for what are the subtraction sentences?
So we have to have careful reading for Miss Carew because she rushes. So we want 2 subtraction sentences, right? So let me grab a little. We can make a minus twice, right? So for one of them,
One of them I did 6 minus 12 equals negative 6.
okay, so you're going to end with negative 6 here. So 6 minus 12 equals negative 6. And then Julian?
I did 6 minus negative 6.
So I'm hearing 6 minus a negative 6 equals 12. And that's true because subtracting is like adding the opposite, right? But I'm going to undo it just so we don't think that's the fact family. The fact family is right there. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Better?
Yes.
Okay, I'll post it. It's 11.